And so she said, that is the biggest penis I've ever seen. Oh, hold on. Wait a second. I'll call you back. Witam towarzyszy, to jest Polinkarz, and today I have another part of the Grover Furr interview for you guys. This time it is heavily edited by my good friend Roachcock, which is not his real name, but that is what he asked me to refer to him as, so there you go. Also, I'm nearing 2,000 subscribers, so I guess that's sort of a milestone, and I want to do a Q&A for you guys. So please leave any questions you have for me in the comments, and I'll be sure to answer them. I really want to thank all you comrades for giving me all the support that you have.
Guys, no one fucking cares. Start the fucking video, man.
Okay.
My latest book, which just came out last week, is called Stalin Waiting for the Truth. I think it would be of interest to your readers, and hopefully to others too. Let me just back up and give you the context. There's a professor of Soviet Russian history at Princeton named Stephen Kotkin. He has spent his entire life, roughly 60 years old, studying the Stalin period in the Soviet Union. And of course, he knows Russian. He wrote his PhD dissertation on that period. This is his era of specialization. Some years ago, he set himself the task of writing the definitive biography of Joseph Stalin. In 2014, he came out with Volume 1, which takes Stalin up to 1928. In October 2017, he came out with Volume 2, which is called Stalin Waiting for Hitler, 1929 to 1941. I was pretty sure that this book would be very bad, although Volume 1 was not too bad. Given the fact that the guy's an anti-communist and so forth, it was not so bad in many ways. But I had a feeling that Volume 2 was going to be very, very bad. So I got this book and studied it very carefully. Now, this book is 1,140 pages long. The text is 906 pages. Then there are 130 or 40 pages of footnotes in tiny, tiny type, over 5,200 footnotes. And then there's the index and the bibliography. This is a real monster. Kotkin is in the process of writing Volume 3, which will take Stalin's biography up to his death. And he surely intends this to be the definitive biography of Stalin in any language. As soon as I started to read it, I realized I was going to have to do something about this because it is a falsification from beginning to end. So what I did was I isolated those statements in this mammoth, immense book, which Kotkin accuses Stalin or those closely associated with him, like Beria and others, or the Soviet Union generally, of crimes, atrocities, murders, immorality, outrages of some kind or other, all of such accusations. Somewhat as I did with Timothy Snyder's book, Bloodlands, in my book, Blood Lies. I researched everything about those claims, Kotkin's claims of crimes and atrocities by Stalin, etc. I checked all of his footnotes and got all the materials, read them all. Many of them, of course, I already knew, already had. And I checked all of his evidence when he has evidence. And what I discovered was that he was unable to come up with a single genuine misdeed of any kind, even trivial stuff, much less crimes, murders, atrocities, anything that Stalin did. All of his fact claims, all of his accusations, allegations against Stalin and the other Soviet leaders are all fraudulent. He doesn't have any evidence to support any of them. And I wrote a book about it. Divided into, categorized according to the major accusations, the Moscow trials, the Katyn massacre is in there, the famine, Kirov's murder, other incidents, including, of course, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And I go into all of this and show, with appropriate documentation, how Kotkin falsifies all of this history. This, I think, is the best evidence that we have at present that Stalin and company didn't commit any crimes, any murders, any atrocities. Because Kotkin, unlike Snyder, has been a specialist in this period essentially a specialist in the Stalin period all his life. And this is his crowning achievement, his major work. I think that if he had been able to find a single genuine crime that Stalin committed, he surely would have put it in there. Along with all the other fake stuff, he would have put that in there too. But he wasn't able to find anything. I try to make my book readable. It's 360 pages long. The type is bigger. There's more space. It's easier to read. I don't think anybody's going to read Kotkin's book from beginning to end. If you write a 900-page book, I don't know who you think your audience is going to be. Maybe you hope people will just read one chapter at a time or something. Surely, Kotkin didn't expect anybody to come along and check his footnotes, check to see if there's any evidence behind his allegations. But that's what I did. I don't think another work like this is going to come along in my lifetime. So I urge your readers to read it. If you're interested in seeing how thoroughgoing, how completely dishonest, how utterly in contradiction with the facts and with the evidence, all of these allegations of crimes and atrocities, horrors, and misdeeds by Stalin and others in the Soviet leadership during his period are. You want to see how dishonest our view of the history of the 20th century is, I urge you to read this book. Because, of course, the implications are tremendous for 20th century history. One minor example, this is just one example. In May of this past year, May 2017, the Russian government finally, no fanfare at all, very quietly, released the transcript of the trial of Marshal Mikhail Tukhachevsky and the other 7 generals who were tried and executed with him in June 1937, the so-called military conspiracy, or the Tukhachevsky affair. There's been a lot of evidence for a long time that these people really were guilty, but the trial transcript really puts the icing on the cake. There's no way that any objective reader could read that plus the other evidence we have against them, or just the trial transcript itself, and think that they were anything but guilty. They also implicate Trotsky, so that's another sort of side topic. Trotsky really was collaborating with the Germans and Japanese. I have another book on that subject too, of course. That means that the history of World War II has to be rewritten, because it's Stalin, by nipping this conspiracy, the military conspiracy, in the bud, preventing it from taking over the Soviet Union, which was their aim, prevented the alliance of the Soviet Union with Hitler's Germany, because that's what the military conspirators wanted to do. They wanted to ally with Germany. That would have made Germany and its ally Japan phenomenally more powerful in World War II than they were. Hitler could have invaded England. The Japanese could have had the oil of Siberia, Sakhalin. They could have had an independent power. They would not have been dependent on the United States and vulnerable to the American blockade of Japanese petroleum. The whole history of World War II, and therefore the history of the 20th century, would have been very, very different. Stalin nipped this conspiracy in the bud, and it was a real conspiracy. Now, of course, it is beyond the pale to say that these generals were guilty. You brand yourself as a kook if you say that. But that's because we are so thoroughly deceived. The lies about Soviet history of the 20th century are so far-going, far-reaching, that it would involve a drastic reconceptualization, re-understanding of the history of the 20th century to recognize that these conspiracies against the Soviet government were real, and that Stalin did not commit the crimes of which he's accused. So that's my book, Stalin Waiting for the Truth, as opposed to Stalin Waiting for Hitler, which is Kotkin's title. I think that would be worthwhile for your readers to study, to see, to convince themselves just how completely we have been lied to about Soviet history of the Stalin period.
Is there a place that I can link to for people to?
It's on Amazon. All the rest of my books are on Amazon too.
Sing a Death Grip song, and we'll see how that works.